Hi, my name is Steve D'Annunzio, and I'm the owner of the Soul Purpose Institute and also the author of the course called The Enlightened Entrepreneur. And I want to let you know what it is about the course, The Enlightened Entrepreneur, that is so very unique. I want you to understand that in reality, we see two versions of reality, and hopefully you watched the video that I did on the inherent nature of reality. Reality is both the mechanism of the Newtonian paradigm, which says that there are mechanics and structures in place that we must work with. So we don't live in a fantasy world. But it's also the ontological aspect of who am I being while I'm doing this thing. So doing business is very important. But who I'm being while I'm doing this thing is also very important. If you see a superior car, but the salesperson is very arrogant, rude, and pushy, you don't really want to do business with him. He may have a superior value proposition in the car, but you don't want to give your money in exchange with a person who's rude and arrogant. So who you're being is also important. Beingness and the study of being is ontology. So we recognize these two very important things. The practices and structures of mechanistic determinism, which are very important, that's entrepreneurship. But also who I'm being, the ontological aspect of am I being mission driven? Am I being service filled for the client? What are my intentions? And what we teach people in the Enlightened Entrepreneur course is to practice extraordinary sense. Extraordinary sense is far greater than common sense. What are the extraordinary senses? Intention, the intention to be a greater business person and be a better person. Then what? Intuition. Why is intuition important? Intuition is a level of awareness that lets you intuit in advance and foresee and anticipate market trends and the drift of marketplaces, so you have a cooperative edge in your business. The first thing I want to talk about is what are the differences between, again, enlightened entrepreneurship and typical entrepreneurship. The first thing I see in enlightened entrepreneurship is enlightened entrepreneurs are motivated by opportunities and possibilities. Typical entrepreneurs are motivated by threats and obligations. Enlightened entrepreneurs take a principled approach to wealth creation. They focus on making sure that they're using principles of love and power. Typical entrepreneurs don't think about principles. They go out and they just have a scattered shot way of creating their value proposition, if you will. They don't use principles of power, they use principles of force. They don't use principles of love, they use principles of fear. What are the principles of power versus force? Power is an idea that has a completely different intention. It's an idea based on the intention of the highest good of all. The highest good of the salesperson, the highest good of the client, the highest good of your family, the highest good of society. Principles of force are based on manipulating for the highest good of the few. Whenever power and force collide, power always wins. The greatest example I can think of is think of Mahatma Gandhi. Here's a man armed with a powerful idea, freedom from Mother India, aligning against the greatest mechanized army and force in the world, England. England had colonialized all of India, much of what is now Pakistan and Thailand, and yet they were selfishly using the resources of India for their own small group, their aristocracy's good. Armed with this powerful truth, Gandhi had power. Armed with the greatest forces, more men, more mechanics, more tanks, England couldn't defeat them. Why? They were based in force. They were based in deception. Gandhi was based in power. Power draws from an infinite supply and creates no counterforce. Force draws from a very limited supply and always creates counterforce and is in constant need of resupply. So you can see the mechanisms of reality, both the spiritual, ontological aspect of being mattered. He was on a mission. He was based in love and therefore power. The English army, based by the king and the queen, were only based in selfish greed. Even though they had greater numbers and greater force, they lost. And in entrepreneurship, it's the same thing. What are the practices and systems of enlightened entrepreneurs? They think and act intentionally and strategically. The other entrepreneur, the typical entrepreneur, does not think and act strategically nor intentionally. They act arrogantly and immaturely, and they manipulate only for themselves. I see this continually, and I believe I have a basis after having written several books on the topic that sold very well, but more than that, after having 15,000 individual mentoring calls with financial services professionals, attorneys, accountants, stockbrokers, and you can read about this study, this ontological and structural mechanistic study in the book, The Prosperity Paradigm. And of course, we teach this now in this course that's highly successful. You'll notice that the enlightened entrepreneur focuses on aligning with extraordinary senses, the higher senses of intuition, intention, and imagination. Einstein himself said imagination is far superior to knowledge. Why? Because knowledge is information. Wisdom is applied knowledge that is used in context. And no truth exists without context. Money is neither good or bad. How it is earned and utilized gives it its meaning. Money can be earned terribly. Let's say if I said to you, I made $2 million last year, and you'd say, oh, that was great. But then I said, I made it as a leg breaker for the mob. Well, obviously that's not very good. So you can see that money itself is neither good or bad, it's neutral. The context in which it's earned and utilized gives it its meaning. So the way that knowledge is utilized, knowledge applied in context to create value for other people, allows you to create superior value propositions and allows you to align with people and create these value propositions spontaneously through the enlightened awareness of the enlightened entrepreneur. Whereas typical entrepreneurs just repeat the same story over and over. They practice this common sense. They think they're focusing on knowledge, but they don't understand that knowledge not applied in context is merely information and not important to anybody. Knowledge applied in context is wisdom. What we're showing you is that having both money and love enables you to live the extraordinary life of the enlightened entrepreneur. We truly choose for you to join us in this value proposition. Please seek a little further. If you've come this far, we'd love to have you as part of our organization and be part of our network, our Wealth Ingenuity Network of enlightened entrepreneurs at the Soul Purpose Institute. The true difference in every wealthy, healthy, highly functioning person in the world is that they truly live their soul purpose in service to other people, had the most extraordinary value proposition, lived love and power, and business is a game of power. So thank you so much. Hope to meet you soon. Be well.